You know what? That's one of the biggest things that I think to this day really still bothers me. So it is something I want to talk about. We don't have to talk about it now. We can talk about Bound for Glory, but it's just that was to have your name attached to something like sexual harassment is a big deal, and yeah, it's and for a lot of people probably go, I don't even know what you're talking about. A lot of people probably aren't familiar with it.
So we'll set up the situation here. Basically, she's the ring announcer.
Yeah,
and she announces the wrong team, and it's That's in a nutshell on live TV. That's in a nutshell.
Yeah. She's a mess up. I don't think the wrong music played, but she didn't hear it. She announced me and Bobby as our opponents.
Right.
Kaz and Daniels.
And you guys are heels.
We're two of the top heels in the company, right? And so I understand when I walk out the curtain, you're in the mode, man. And I think that's again. Maybe somewhere wrestling's, I don't say what's wrong. I hate when people, it's what's wrong with wrestling. This is where you got to change the language. Nothing's wrong or right about wrestling, but it's where it's changing. And we can have opinions on if we like it or not. But I think that there's people aren't in the scene anymore because there's no scene. It's just this kind of, the fourth wall has been broken repeatedly. So, right. But you go out there in the mode. And so I hear it and yeah, it's live TV and I'm trying to process, what do I do? I can't acknowledge I didn't hear it because I'm thinking, oh no, we're live. We can't just do it over. We can't get an editing. It's my first thought. Can we get an editing? Can't get an editing. All right. So understand the thought process. The ring announcer, who's there to just announce names, she's eye candy. Now I'm not saying this isn't Dan, it's my real name in my house, saying this about Christy, the person. I'm saying this in the context of the show. She's there to be hot girl announcing names, and I'm the top former world champion bad guy with my partner, former world champion bad guy. She just basically just shit on us and disrespected us and felt no need to correct herself, which is, I think, where it was like she giggled it off like there was like, she probably was, nervous, whatever.
I probably didn't know what to do, right.
Okay, cool. So I'm just thinking like, all right, what am I going to do? So I didn't think out all the logistics of this, but in my head, I'm thinking like corner punch. If you don't want to be there, leave. Something I'm gonna kind of get in her face and make her do it right.
Yeah.
And once she does her job, she dismissed us. Once she does her job, I dismiss her. Like, you don't exist. You're here for a single reason. Do it and now disappear. Be gone. That's a very dick thing. Yes, I wasn't thinking that as a real person, right? Like that was in my heel mode. I'm going like, oh, that's a fucking. Let me get some heat out of this motherfucking thing, right?
Right.
So I kind of I get in there, and I'm still like, I'm thinking on the fly here. I'm like, kind of back her, and she backs in the corner. I said, do it again. I think I said, do it again right. And she goes, and she says the name, and I stand on the second rope, and I do my pose. And, I try to give her as much clearance as possible. I didn't think about heights or I didn't think all this thing through. But I wasn't acknowledging her. It was like she was now vanished. And I assumed she would just vanish if she didn't want to be there. That's not what happened. She kind of was obviously kind of like, what the fuck? And she kind of like tapped my leg and I hopped off and I just stayed in character and that was it. And
it was all very quick when you watch it back.
It's like 2 seconds, you know? And so I didn't think much of it. I just figured like, okay, cool. Like we got some heat. I was just kind of a dick. Like it's, in the way I was brought up and taught like this is what you do, right? Like we're the camera's on, we're rolling. So, I got to the back and no one said anything. Went through the rest of the taping. No one made any mention of it, that there was any issue. I got home and then the next day I got a call from the office saying I was going to be fined $5,000 for the incident with Christy. And I was like, whoa, like what incident with Christy? And like, well, the thing was like, whoa, I didn't even know that was an issue. Like, why didn't anybody say anything to me? Like I was there the whole fucking day and no one came up and said what. I was like, yo, and it was Al Snow. It was, and I just said, hey, Al, let me call Christy and like talk to her. I certainly wasn't trying to offend her or whatever. And so I called her. We talked for 20 minutes, and she, I explained kind of where I was at, and I apologized if, she felt whatever, you know, and I wish she would have came and said something to me. And she kind of told me where her mindset was. Initially, she wasn't, but as the day went on and people were kind of coming up to her, she started thinking more about it and just, you know, and I get, and I can understand too, like, you know, being a woman in the business, like you can, maybe some things can trigger you, and maybe it's not initially, or maybe when people start coming up and go, are you okay? Like, do you feel this way? And you start thinking about it, you know, whatever. Like, I get it. She explained her part. I explained mine. I told her I didn't have any issue with her professionally, wasn't anything to do, and it was cool, and we ended the conversation in good terms and all good. So I called Al back and I was like, hey dude, like, we're good, man. I called Christy, everything's cool. And he just said, well, like, you know, Dixie, you think we should make an apology? And I was like, well, for what? Like, suspending disbelief is, you know, we got to tell him, oh, that wasn't real, or he's sorry for doing something as a bad guy, like, that made you not like him.
Right.
Like, I was like, I handled it the way I needed to. Like, I talked to her, we're cool. Like,
yeah,
I don't care what people online think. Like, you know, because she put some tweet out saying, like, responding to some fans saying, like, did you like when he did that? And she's like, no, it was inappropriate or something, or unacceptable. It's like, well, that's what she would say in character. Like, of course it's not acceptable. Like, it wasn't supposed to be acceptable. It was,
right.
I was being a bad guy. Like, but people took that. Mark Madden.
He's calling people out here.
Mark Madden. I'm not gonna call him a bunch of names like a midget stripper and shit like he called me, but I find it funny that of all the people to champion women's causes, it's Mark Madden. Go look at that guy's feed and see what he thinks about women. Anyway, and yeah, Mark, I'll call you out. I never met you, but you sure took a lot of fucking time to make my life fucking miserable and paint me as something I'm not. So if we're ever in the same room together, I'd like to meet you. It'd be nice if you'd introduce yourself properly to me. So, you know, he went, but again, it's his job, man. He's a shock jock. I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, look at him. The guy hates, listen, anyone, you don't take care of yourself to that extent. You, obviously, if you give so little of a fuck about yourself, you obviously don't give a fuck about anybody else or what you do to their life. You don't give a fuck what you're doing in your own life. He really started beating the drum of what this was. And listen, what happens is that noise gets loud enough that now Viacom hears about it and asks Spike what the fuck's happening with their wrestling company. They go to the wrestling company and go, what is all this shit?
Sure.
And then we got to make it go away. We got to fix it. So they want me to make an apology. And, you know, I did my normal shit that I do, pain in the ass, and I sat with Al for 25 minutes preaching my case, like, this is whatever, and it's irresponsible, and we can make a joint statement as a company, and, like, to have me, whatever. And at the end, I said, so I should probably just make this apology, right? Like, it's the easiest thing. And he goes, yeah. All right. So they just want to be heard, you know what I'm saying? Fuck. So I go, all right, dude, like, I'll write something up and put it out. And he goes, well, actually, I think Dixie already put something together for you.
Wow.
And I was like, well, thinking she can give me the courtesy of calling me then. Like, she can give me the respect and call me and, like, hear me out before she goes and puts words in my mouth and apologizes for me. And I read the apology. It was something like, I want to apologize for my bad behavior against Christy Hemme. It was like something like that. It was like so bad. I want to be like, and I'm going to go sit in the corner for an hour and think about what I've done, and no PlayStation for me for a month. Like, I definitely deserve that. Like, what the fucking juvenile kind of apology was this? It was terrible. So I waited for the phone call. I didn't get it. So then I got a call from Bruce Pritchard, head of talent at the time, and we had the conversation, and I just reiterated, like, hey, dude, like, first of all, now things like sexual harassment are being thrown out there, and, like, that's no fucking joke. And for me to make an apology, like, why are we letting outside pressure tell us how to police our business? You know, we keep our business. And so I said, we can make a joint statement, like, or just come and make a statement. We're aware there's concern over interaction between, you know, two of our characters. They've had, you know, we all sat down, had a great talk. Everyone feels comfortable, like, whatever. No smoke, no fire. Go about your business.
Well, the outside forces are because money's at stake here.
Of course.
And
well, Viacom's going, we're hearing this, shut it down. Spike's like, oh, fuck, hey, we're hearing this, shut it down. And TNA's like, how do we shut it down? Well, but the responsible way to shut that down is to do it collectively and not to throw one party out in a bus. And that was all my contention was. And then also, if you're going to put words in my mouth and apologize for me, well, then give me the courtesy to talk to me So maybe your words match a little bit of what I feel. So, I mean, the statement could have been like, hey, like, they could have just came out and said, hey, like, he called her immediately and they talked and made sure there was no misunderstandings between what happened on camera and off. And that's was the reality, you know? And so, but as this thing kept playing out and kept growing, like, I'm just kind of in disbelief, like, this is becoming a thing. I'm like, this wasn't a thing. This was literally 2 seconds of me just trying to, on the fly, cover this thing up as a bad guy. And now, like, I'm like a week into this shit going like, this is taking a life of its own and this isn't cool. And no one's really working to shut this down. They're wanting me to just like take this rap and think like cop to this shit that I didn't do. And so I wouldn't feel comfortable apologizing for now what was being characterized as sexual harassment because she never said it was. She didn't feel it was.
Or is she just saying to you that, hey, it's fine, Austin, and then telling other people,
I don't know, man.
You know what? I have an issue with this.
Here, in retrospect, when I look at how it all played out, like I do feel like listen, I told her straight up, Christy, like your tweet saying this was unacceptable kind of started all this. I said, you put a tweet out can end all this. Like I can't say, hey, I called her and everything is cool, but you can say, hey, like he called me, like it's all good and this goes away. She was saying, hey, they don't want me to say anything. Well, so now you're protecting your interests and you're letting things being said that aren't true. That's not fucking cool because you said something. First of all, you screwed up your job. No offense. That wasn't the first time or second, third. And then now instead of just taking the fucking ownership of that and me, okay, I made a bad decision. Like I didn't think out all the factors and scenarios. That was my bad. I could have done a million other ways of being an asshole to correct her without standing on the turnbuckle. Like I'll own that one. Like that was just I'm bad judgment but I'm not going to cop to fucking sexually harassing someone. That's fucking bullshit. And also I think it's funny that, okay, is it because she's an attractive female and I'm a guy, so the connotation is, well, I must want to fuck her? Because that's kind of what's implied, right? I never made eye contact with her. I never made any gyrations or anything. So there was nothing sexual about what I did. But so if it's sexual harassment, is it because I must want to have sex with her? Or that's one thing I always found curious. Like, who's to say I didn't have a chance and I passed on it? I mean,
like maybe it's sexual harassment because it's unwanted. She didn't have a choice in it.
She had a choice to leave.
It happened so quickly.
It did, exactly, right. But the question was like, what has nothing to do with sex? Why does that have anything to do with sex?
Well,
that was my.
It's because of where the line of sight was. That's the only reason.
And that was what it is, right?
If you were on the bottom rope, it wouldn't have been. It would have.
Yeah,
been
but it was just kept like sexual harassment. I was
situation.
like, whoa, like what's sexual harassment? Like I've had a couple of longer term relationships, girls that have been in the business. I'm not, that's not my MO. I'm not that kind of guy. I've always actually been the opposite, very respectful to my colleagues. I was taught to hold doors open, be a gentleman. So for now, this kind of be blowing back in me was like, whoa, like that was tough from that standpoint. But so, in this process, we get to this point where it's going on. And finally I said to Bruce, we were talking and like lawyers are getting involved now. And it was just kind of like, oh, my mind's fucking waking up with this shit every day, And I said, dude, I was like, why? I said, why are we letting them work? Why don't we work them? I was like, so I knew they had this idea for me to pop out from the suicide mask, and pop for the option C thing. I knew that was something they had kind of in the plans. I said, what if I go and make an apology next week live? I'll make it right in the middle of the ring, and I'll apologize. I was offended, blah blah blah, and I quit. Fuck this.
Right.
And I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And then I'll be gone. Everyone will think they got what they wanted. They got their apology. Hey, big bad guy's gone. There, he can learn this fucking lesson. And then in a month, I pop up under suicide, and we have a laugh. Got you.
Right.
Like, they got what they want, and ultimately we fucking worked and got what we wanted. I was like, that's what we should do. So he goes, it's like there's silence. I'm like, he's like, don't say anything to anybody. Let me work this up the chain of command. I was like, okay, fuck. We might have,
this is working, yeah.
We might have something here. Holy
Yeah.
shit, after all this nonsense, like we might come to actually some fucking lemonade out of this. Holy fuck. It's like the next morning, I won't forget this shit. I woke up and this headline, David Schwartz, Spike rep, was interviewed by Mark Madden and all of his chins. And I did fat shame you, dude, because that's a choice. I shouldn't celebrate the fact you don't want to be healthy. And if you truly don't feel bad about it, there's no way to shame anybody. Like, you couldn't shame me for being vegan. You couldn't vegan shame me. It's impossible.
Because you're proud of being vegan?
I'm saying if you truly believe in everything you are, like how do you be shamed about it?
Right.
You only feel shame if there's a part of you that has shame. I think. Anyway, devolving on a whole other topic. You see where the brain.
I see that, yeah.
Overactive brain syndrome, Chris. That's why the CBD helps. So, and he got quoted basically saying, we here at Spike TV do not condone sexual harassment. The incident with Austin Aries and Christy Hemme is being, basically handled. Once again, we don't condone sexual harassment. And like now, it wasn't a shock jock Mark Madden or fans. This was like a Spike rep, unquote, like attaching me to sexual harassment. And that was effectively like a fucking game changer, because then at that point my attorney just put a gag order on me. He's like, he ain't saying anything. Like, this is a serious offense that this has gone too far. And so I basically crafted a long page statement, apology statement that had all the timelines of all the contact and all this shit, and sent it to my lawyer to then send to their lawyer and say, we're going to release this tomorrow. We're going to fucking just clear this out. And then I got a call from Dixie, finally. And, oh, don't worry. We don't need to do that. It's all going to go away. We're going to clear your name. That Mark Madden, we'll make sure. And so, all right, and the next morning, TMZ reported that I was severely fined and apologized profusely to Christy Hemme. And that's
wow. So it got taken care of.
That's how it went away. And what do you say, dude? First of all, understand this. When I broke in the business, I was taught you protect the business, you protect your opponent, and you protect yourself, in that order. So I always have held on to this. What happens behind the curtain stays behind the curtain. We protect the business. We protect what we do, the brotherhood. But let's be honest, dude. The curtain's fucking been ripped off, and I'm probably one of the last marks sitting here trying to protect something that you can't protect. Right. Doesn't need to be protected, I guess. So a lot of these moments when these things come out, it's like, well, I'm going to come out and blow the fucking doors open on all this shit. I was still working there, And it's funny thing is, you asked that question earlier, how she was playing it. Well, after this went away, she moved to Nashville and got promoted and effectively worked in the office and was my boss.
Wow. What did that do for you?
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Again, I think that, and my departure there at that time, deciding not to resign there after my run was in large due to that, how all that played out. I remember telling Dixie, because I'm so disappointed that we couldn't keep you here in long term. And I just said, Dixie, I said, that's true. I said, I'll never come back and work for this company if I'm working for anybody. I'll come back here if I'm in a position of some power to actually do effectively make some change. But I can't do this no more.